Have you ever known something before it happened? Felt a warning not to take a certain path, only to discover later it was dangerous? Or woken from a dream with an answer to a problem you couldn't solve the day before? These flashes feel random, but what if they are not accidents at all? What if they are signs that another version of you is already reaching across time to guide you? Tonight, as you prepare to sleep, imagine stepping into a secret dialogue with yourself, not the you of yesterday, but the you who already overcame despair, who already found balance, who already created the life you desire. This is not poetic exaggeration. It is the heart of a theory that unites quantum physics with ancient wisdom. Pythagoras taught that sleep is the brother of death and the gateway to truth. His disciples practiced the nightly review, examining every action of the day before surrendering to rest, convinced that dreams were a bridge to higher knowledge. What they intuited thousands of years ago, modern physics now frames as the existence of parallel times, and within them, another you. One question remains. If another version of you already solved the problems you are drowning in today, why aren't you listening? That intuition that tells you not to take the usual road, that dream that warns you of a danger, that sudden calm in the middle of a storm, what if all of these are messages from your quantum double, sent through invisible windows of time? Time is not a river flowing forward. It is more like a sea filled with currents, each leading to different shores. Ancient Greek philosophers called it kairos, the opportune moment when destiny can be shifted. Science now calls it anticipation, the brain's ability to register events a fraction of a second before they happen. Both point to the same truth. The future is already written in countless ways, and you can choose which version you will live. Stay alert. In the next minutes, you will discover how to transform sleep into a portal, how to reprogram anxiety and depression as echoes of futures badly recorded, and how to align with the luminous version of yourself that is waiting. This is not abstract philosophy. It is a practice that can begin tonight. The future already exists. We have been taught to believe that the future is a blank page, an unwritten chapter that will only take shape as we move forward in time. This vision of life as a straight line comforts us because it gives us the sense that we are in control, that we can create everything from zero. But physics, ancient philosophy, and the testimony of our own experiences tell us something different. The future is not an empty space waiting for our actions. It already exists, multiplied into countless possibilities, vibrating in timelines that run parallel to this very moment. Imagine walking through a vast library. On each shelf lies a different version of your life. In one book, you chose to stay silent in the face of fear. In another, you spoke up and changed your destiny. In one volume, anxiety dictated your decisions. In another, courage transformed your path. These books are not fantasies. They are potential realities that coexist. What you call the present is simply the moment when you open one of those books and begin to read. Your quantum double is the reader that explores these shelves ahead of you. It moves through time in a different rhythm, faster than your conscious mind can follow. While you are limited to perceiving only the linear unfolding of days, your double already navigates the ocean of futures, diving into them and returning with fragments of information. A sudden dream, a flash of intuition, an inner voice whispering no or yes. These are not random. They are messages from that part of you that has already traveled the path. This is why depression, anxiety, and fear cannot be treated as prisons without exit. They are not your essence. They are echoes of futures badly memorized, versions of yourself that became imprinted on your subconscious, as if they were the only truth. When you wake each morning believing that nothing can change, what you are really doing is reliving a timeline already recorded, mistaking it for destiny. But what was recorded can be rewritten. Think of a scratched record that repeats the same note over and over again. You might believe that is the entire song, but in reality, the music continues beyond the skip. Your life is that record, and your quantum double is the musician who knows how the melody truly flows. It whispers the missing notes through your sleep, reminding you that the repetition of fear is not the end, but an error that can be corrected. Science has shown that the brain makes decisions a fraction of a second before we are aware of them. Experiments by Benjamin Libet revealed that the body begins to act before the conscious mind catches up. This anticipatory mechanism proves that the future touches us earlier than we think. What we call the present is already the echo of an invisible moment that preceded it. Time is not as solid as we imagine. It bends, it folds, and it anticipates. One choice can change everything. That is not a metaphor, it is a law of reality. At every instant, you stand at a crossroad of possibilities, and your thoughts, your intentions, even the quiet images you form before sleep, decide which road you will walk tomorrow. The Greeks called this moment kairos, the sacred opportunity where destiny can shift. Physics calls it probability waves collapsing into reality. Your double calls it communication. So when fear tells you that nothing will change, remember this. Change has already happened. Somewhere in the fabric of time, there is a version of you that has already healed, already found peace, already lived the life that now feels unreachable. That self is not a dream. It is a fact. The work is to bring fragments of that future into your present, to let your quantum double guide you into the timeline where you thrive. This is not a distant concept. It is a practice that begins with listening. When an intuition comes, when a dream leaves you unsettled or inspired, when a sudden clarity cuts through your confusion, stop and pay attention. These are the windows through which your double speaks. Ignore them, and you repeat the scratched note. Trust them, and you step into a new song. The future is not something you will one day create. It is a sea already filled with islands, each waiting for you to arrive. The island you set foot on depends on your attention, your choices, your openness to the guidance of the self who has already sailed ahead. You are not alone in this journey. The proof is in every whisper of intuition, every dream that seems too precise to dismiss, every answer that appears before the question. Your quantum double is calling, and its message is simple. The future already exists. To understand the quantum double, imagine looking into a mirror that does not reflect who you are now, but who you could become. It is not science fiction or fantasy. It is the foundation of Jean-Pierre Garnier Malet's theory of time doubling, which states that each of us has another self that moves through time at a different speed. This self is not a stranger. It is you, accelerated, expanded, already exploring the futures you have yet to reach. When you lie down to sleep, your body surrenders to rest, but your double is just beginning its work. It leaves the linear rhythm you know and enters a faster dimension of time, where it can scan countless scenarios, test decisions, and return with the information needed to keep you alive and aligned. This explains why, throughout history, sleep has been considered sacred. Pythagoras trained his disciples to review their actions before closing their eyes, believing that dreams carried revelations. Today, neuroscience reveals that REM sleep is a window where the brain rehearses futures and prepares us for challenges yet to come. But the double is not limited to survival. It is also the guardian of your purpose. That sudden idea that changes the direction of your career, the dream that pushes you toward a relationship, the instinct that warns you of danger before it happens, all of these are its language. They arrive not as voices from outside, but as fragments of yourself already tested in another time, already proven in another reality. What you feel as intuition is, in truth, a message from the double. This changes everything. Because if the double is real, then you are not a prisoner of circumstance. You are a co-creator of destiny, with a part of yourself that sees farther than your waking mind can. Depression becomes not a sentence but a signal, fear not an enemy but an echo, anxiety not an obstacle, but a reminder that another path exists. These states show you what futures have been badly memorized, and the double shows you how to erase them. Think of an ancient traveler who walks ahead on a dark road with a lantern. That traveler is you, but faster, already navigating the unknown, already discovering where the ground is firm and where it crumbles. Every spark of clarity you feel is the light of that lantern reaching you. Ignore it, and you stumble. Follow it, and you walk with confidence, even in the dark. The Greeks understood this long before modern physics. They spoke of the daimon, a guiding presence that whispered the truth in moments of decision. Socrates called it his inner voice, never commanding, only warning or guiding. What Garnier Malet calls the double may be the same ancient intuition, now described through the lens of time and probability rather than myth. Different names, one truth. You are guided by a self beyond the present moment. The invitation is simple, yet demanding. To meet your double, you must quiet the noise that drowns out its messages. Fear, doubt, constant distraction, these are walls that block the signals. But trust, simplicity, and the willingness to listen open the door. It begins with the last thought before sleep, a seed planted in fertile soil, and continues with the attention you give to the whispers of intuition by day. Meeting your quantum double is not about escaping reality. It is about entering reality more fully, with the awareness that you are not confined to a single thread of time. There are many versions of your story waiting, and one of them holds the healing, freedom, and peace you seek. Your double is already there, already living it, already calling you to cross the bridge. And tonight, when your eyes close, that bridge will appear again. The only question is whether you will step onto it. The night as a portal. Every night, without fail, you step into the most powerful doorway of your life. You may think of it as ordinary sleep, a simple biological necessity, but in truth, it is a sacred passage. When your eyes close and your mind drifts, the rigid rules of linear time loosen, and a hidden exchange begins. You are no longer only the self bound by hours and days. You are also the traveler entering a dimension where your quantum double moves freely, scanning futures, erasing dangers, and choosing paths you cannot yet see. This is why the ancients revered sleep. Pythagoras insisted on the nightly practice of revisiting every action, every thought, before surrendering to rest. For him, this ritual was not about guilt or judgment, but about preparing the soul for the journey that followed. Dreams were never mere illusions. They were considered messages, maps, and warnings, and modern neuroscience echoes this wisdom. REM sleep, the paradoxical stage where the body is paralyzed, but the brain is ablaze with activity, functions as a rehearsal room for tomorrow. Your brain simulates threats, solves problems, and plants the seeds of intuition that will bloom in waking life. Consider the moments when you woke with a sudden answer to a problem that seemed impossible the night before, or when a dream delivered a warning, so vivid that you could not ignore it. These are not coincidences. They are the proof that your double has been working in the shadows of time, returning from futures already lived, handing you the information needed to survive, to adapt, to align. But survival is only the beginning. The night is also a portal to transformation. Anxiety, depression, fear, these heavy states do not vanish by force in the waking day. They dissolve when the double rewrites the script during sleep. Every negative emotion is a residue of a poorly memorized future, and every night is the chance to send that flawed recording back into the hands of the double, to request a new version, one where your steps are lighter and your heart clearer. This is why the final thought before sleep holds such power. It is like sealing a letter and placing it into the hands of your double. If you close your eyes in despair, feeding fear with every breath, that is the letter you send. If you close your eyes with trust, even in silence, you hand your double the permission to search for brighter futures. Simplicity is the key. A single thought, a single image of peace, a whisper of gratitude. That is enough to set the work in motion. The Greeks spoke of Hypnos, the god of sleep, and his brother Morpheus, the shaper of dreams. They knew that night was not an absence, but a meeting ground, a theater where mortals and immortals, present and future, touched. Today we call it REM cycles, subconscious processing, and information exchange. But the essence is the same. The night is a bridge, and sleep is the crossing. So the next time you close your eyes, remember, you are not just resting. You are entering a laboratory of time, a place where your double experiments with your destiny. Every dream is a data point, every intuition a message, every sudden clarity a gift from the self who sees farther than you do. The night is not darkness, it is a door, and you walk through it every single day of your life. The last thought before sleep. There is a moment each night so brief that most people overlook it, yet it holds the power to reshape entire futures. It is the instant just before sleep, when consciousness fades and the door to your double opens. At that threshold, your mind plants the seed that will grow in the fertile soil of the night. What you choose to think in that fragile moment becomes the message your double carries into other timelines. If you fall asleep rehearsing fear, imagining disasters, replaying regrets, those are the codes transmitted. Your double receives them and explores futures aligned with that vibration. And when morning comes, you awaken into echoes of those fears. Anxiety feels heavier, depression more real, the world more hostile. Yet if you surrender to sleep with trust, with a single clear image of balance or gratitude, you hand your double a different script. It will then search through the infinite shelves of time for the futures that resonate with that simplicity. And when morning arrives, you awaken lighter, more open, subtly directed toward paths of peace. The ancients understood this hidden law. Pythagoras trained his followers to examine their conscience before bed, not to punish themselves, but to refine the last impression of the day. By doing so, they ensured that the double, though they did not use this word, would navigate from a place of clarity instead of confusion. Modern psychology confirms what philosophy and mysticism already knew. The subconscious absorbs the final thought before sleep more deeply than any other, replaying it through the night as a program. Think of it as tuning an instrument. A single note played in harmony will resonate through the entire piece of music. A dissonant note struck just before silence will echo painfully. Your last thought is that note, and your night is the symphony. You cannot control every dream, but you can set the tone, and that tone guides your double's journey. There are countless testimonies of people who solved problems, found healing, or avoided danger simply by surrendering their concerns before sleep. A mother prays for guidance and wakes with clarity on how to help her child. An inventor asks for a solution and dreams of the missing design. A person tormented by depression breathes gratitude in the dark and wakes with a subtle lightness, the first step out of despair. These are not accidents. They are the responses of the double, carrying back the fruits of the last thought planted before sleep. The practice does not require complexity. It does not demand ritual, long words, or elaborate prayers. It asks only for sincerity. One image, one phrase, one silent trust. Guide me. Protect me. Show me the path of peace. This is enough. The double hears not the words, but the vibration beneath them. It takes that vibration into the workshop of time and returns with futures aligned. This is why it is said that every day is created the night before, because the night is the portal, and the last thought before you cross its threshold is the key. Hold that key carefully. Use it consciously. Tonight, when your head touches the pillow, remember that you are not only closing a day, you are opening a future. Time splitting and the physics of the double time as we experience it feels like an arrow moving in a single direction. Morning follows night, cause precedes effect. Yesterday is gone and tomorrow is not yet here. But this perception is only a surface illusion. Beneath it, time splits, doubles and folds in ways our senses cannot detect. It is within these hidden folds that your quantum double operates. Jean-Pierre Garnier Malet called it the theory of time doubling. According to his work, the flow of time is not continuous. Instead, it pulses in imperceptible fractions, infinitesimal windows that open and close faster than the conscious mind can register. In one rhythm, you live the linear experience of hours and days. In another, far faster rhythm, your double exists, moving through futures before you arrive at them, updating possibilities and returning with information. Think of a movie reel. When you watch a film, you see smooth motion, but in reality it is a sequence of still images flashing quickly enough to trick the eye. Time works in a similar way. You see continuity, but in truth, you live in frames, separated by gaps. In those gaps, your double moves. It is the traveler between frames, the one who explores the next scenes before you do, ensuring that when the reel continues, you are aligned with the path that sustains your life. The Greeks hinted at this mystery in their obsession with rhythm and proportion. For Pythagoras, the universe was built on harmonic intervals, on the silent mathematics of frequency. What he called number and harmony, Garnier Malet translates into fractions of time. Both point to the same truth. Reality is a composition and time is its music. Some notes you hear, others you cannot, but all of them shape the melody of your existence. This explains why premonitions occur, why dreams predict, why intuition feels instant. It is not magic. It is the result of a part of you living in those faster intervals, receiving packets of information from futures that already exist, and transmitting them back into your slower awareness. A sudden fear that saves you from danger, a creative spark that solves a problem, a dream that foreshadows an event. These are the proofs that time is not linear, but doubled. And if time is doubled, then destiny is not fixed. For every path you walk, another was possible, another still is. You are not bound to a single line, but free to choose which doubling you will inhabit. Depression, anxiety, and fear arise when you become trapped in one narrow repetition, believing it to be absolute. The double exists to remind you that the real has other frames, the song other notes, the ocean other currents. Pause for a moment and imagine. Every choice, every thought, every intention you form is like a ripple, spreading through these intervals of time. Some ripples lead to chaos, others to harmony. Your double perceives the larger pattern and guides you to the rhythm that sustains you. When you ignore it, you stumble into discord. When you trust it, you move with the hidden music of the universe. So time is not only what your clock measures, it is a fabric woven with layers invisible to the senses, but alive in every breath you take. Within those layers, your double is already waiting, already moving, already carrying pieces of the future into your present. To live without awareness of this is to walk blind. To awaken to it is to discover that every instant is more than it seems. Healing anxiety and depression. Through the double, anxiety and depression often feel like prisons with invisible walls. The racing thoughts, the weight in the chest, the constant sense that something is wrong. These states convince you that life itself is closing in. But what if they are not fixed sentences? What if they are simply echoes of futures badly recorded, timelines that imprinted themselves on your subconscious, yet can still be rewritten? The theory of the quantum double reframes these struggles. It tells us that when you feel trapped in fear or despair, you are not experiencing the whole truth, but one possible future bleeding into your present. Your double, existing in faster rhythms of time, has already seen countless versions of what comes next. Among them are paths where the heaviness lifts, where clarity returns, where your heart is steady. The double's role is to guide you toward those timelines, if only you are willing to listen. Think of anxiety as static on a radio. The station you want is playing, but your receiver is locked onto interference. In the same way, fear and depression tune you to futures of chaos, reinforcing the belief that nothing will change. The double, however, is tuned to a broader frequency. It already knows where the clearer signals are. The last thought before sleep, a moment of conscious trust, is how you adjust your inner dial to match the station your double is broadcasting from. Stories abound of people who sensed this without naming it. A person overwhelmed by despair, who whispered a simple plea before sleep, "Help me," and woke the next day with the weight slightly eased. Another who asked silently for guidance and dreamed of walking into light, awakening with a newfound sense of direction. These are not miracles in the mythical sense. They are responses from the double, returning from futures already lived to hand back the smallest steps of healing. Science, too, confirms fragments of this mystery. During REM sleep, the brain processes emotional memories, discarding what is unnecessary, softening what is too heavy, preparing you for tomorrow. If trauma, fear, or depression dominate, those memories are replayed like grooves in a scratched record. But if you shift the tone of your final thought before sleep, the double uses the same mechanism to update the record, creating a new imprint, one that carries balance instead of despair. The Greeks would have called this the work of the daimon, the inner guide who whispers at the crossroads of choice. We call it intuition, but its effect is the same. A sudden calm in the middle of panic, an idea that interrupts despair, a dream that brings relief. Each is a message packet from the double breaking through the fog. They remind you that depression and anxiety are not your identity, but distorted futures that can be replaced. Healing does not require force. It begins with surrender, a breath of gratitude in the dark, a willingness to let the double search for the best possible timeline. Night after night, these small acts accumulate, opening doors where before there were only walls. Anxiety loosens its grip, depression fades into distance, and in their place a new path emerges, one that your double has been holding for you all along. So when despair tells you there is no way forward, remember, your double is already walking ahead, already living the version of you who is free. Tonight, you can let that self lead. And tomorrow, you may wake to find the prison door slightly open. Premonitions, intuitions, and insights, messages from the double. Have you ever felt a chill before danger, as if your body knew before your mind, or awakened with the solution to a problem that seemed impossible the night before? These moments of sudden clarity are not accidents. They are packets of information sent by your quantum double through windows of time so small you cannot perceive them. Jean-Pierre Garnier Malet described time not as a smooth flow, but as a sequence of infinitesimal intervals, gaps between moments, like the frames of a film. In those silent gaps, your double moves. It explores futures and then sends back fragments of guidance compressed into signals your brain decodes as intuition, premonition, or insight. What feels like a sudden thought is, in fact, a message carried across the invisible architecture of time. The Greeks spoke of the daimon, the inner voice that whispered truth to Socrates. He himself claimed that whenever he was about to make a mistake, a voice warned him in silence. Today we call it conscience or gut instinct, but its nature is the same. It is the double intervening with information that bypasses logic and arrives as certainty. These messages often come as simplicity itself. A flash of, "Don't go there," a dream so vivid it lingers for years. An idea so clear you wonder why it never appeared before. They are not built by reasoning. They arrive fully formed as if downloaded. That is because they are not constructed in your present mind. They are retrieved from another timeline where your double already lived the outcome. The challenge is discernment. Not every thought is a message from the double. Fear, doubt, and obsession create noise. They produce loops of anxiety that feel urgent but only repeat the past. The double's messages, by contrast, carry a quality of lightness. They may surprise you, but they bring calm. They may direct you away from comfort, but they leave you with peace. They arrive without struggle. This is why cultivating silence matters. When your mind is always occupied, the packets cannot be heard. When you slow down, even for a breath, the transmission finds space. The more you practice listening, the more the voice of intuition becomes distinct from the static of fear. Over time, you begin to notice patterns, warnings that save you, ideas that accelerate your path, synchronicities that confirm you are being guided. So the next time you experience a sudden intuition, do not dismiss it as random. Recognize it as a message from your quantum double, returning from a future you have not yet lived. These are not fragments of fantasy. They are coordinates, signals, invitations to align with a better timeline. Listen closely, for your double is always speaking, though only in the silence between moments. The collective future and the ethics of thought. Every thought you generate does more than shape your personal life. It ripples outward, weaving itself into the shared field of humanity. When you imagine anger, fear, or harm, those vibrations are not contained inside you. They are projected into the same temporal fabric where your quantum double operates. And just as your own future is sculpted by what you think before sleep, the collective future of the planet is sculpted by the sum of our mental seeds. This is why Garnier Malet insisted that no thought is neutral. Every idea is a potential that tries to exist in time. If it is benevolent, it opens futures of balance. If it is destructive, it attracts timelines of chaos. Depression, anxiety, and fear are not only personal states. When repeated by millions, they imprint themselves into the collective memory, making global crises more likely. The opposite is also true. Gratitude, forgiveness, and trust are not sentimental gestures. They are frequencies that create room for futures of peace. Ancient Greek philosophers hinted at this principle through the concept of amaros, a universal law of harmony. Pythagoras taught that harming another in thought was no different than harming oneself, because all lives are bound by the same rhythm. To send negativity outward is to poison the very water you drink. To cultivate clarity and compassion is to tune yourself to the cosmic harmony he believed held the stars in place. This means that your double is not only concerned with your private survival, but also with the balance of the whole. At night, while you sleep, it updates not just your personal futures, but the threads connecting you to others. Your silent anger, your jealousy, your resentment, they are all carried into that exchange. And so are your prayers, your gratitude, and your hopes. What you think before sleep does not vanish. It becomes part of the negotiation between countless timelines at once. Imagine if enough people, each night, trusted their double with thoughts of peace rather than fear. Futures of conflict would lose their fuel. Timelines of destruction would dissolve for lack of energy. Humanity's course could bend. It would not require miracles, only the repeated choice of millions to seed better futures before they close their eyes. In this sense, the most powerful activism may not begin in the streets, but in the silent moment before sleep. This is the deeper responsibility of the quantum double. It is not simply a private guide, but a guardian of the collective destiny. By aligning with it, you do more than heal your own anxiety or depression. You contribute to the healing of the species. In the unseen language of time, your thoughts are votes, and every night is an election for the future of the world. The nightly ritual, meeting your quantum double theory alone cannot change a life. What transforms is practice, and the most powerful practice is one that happens every night in the intimate silence between wakefulness and sleep. This is where you meet your quantum double, not through force but through a ritual of simplicity. Begin with awareness. As you prepare for rest, pause for a moment. Notice the weight of your thoughts. Are they circling in fear, replaying the failures of the day? Or are they softened by trust, by gratitude for even the smallest fragments of light? This awareness is the doorway, because the last thought you carry across the threshold of sleep will be the seed your double takes into its exploration of futures. Keep it simple. Garnier Malet himself insisted on this. A single clear sentence, whispered inside, "Guide me to the best future," or "I trust you to update my path." Nothing more is needed. Complex rituals, heavy affirmations, desperate pleas. They create noise. The double does not respond to pressure. It responds to clarity, to sincerity, to the naked honesty of a child asking for help. Then let go. This is the hardest part. To surrender means you no longer cling to control. You do not demand how or when. You simply trust that while you drift into dreams, another you is already awake in a slower rhythm of time, scanning paths ahead, weaving possibilities, erasing what harms, bringing back what saves. In the morning, you may not remember details, but you will carry subtle signs. A calm where panic once lived, a thought that appears at the right moment, an encounter that feels like destiny. Ancient traditions hinted at this practice. The Egyptians spoke of the Ba, the soul bird that left the body at night. The Greeks saw Hypnos and Morpheus as messengers through dreams. Today we understand REM sleep as a biological necessity, but the theory of the double reveals its hidden function. It is the portal for communication with futures unseen. Your nightly ritual is simply the act of opening that portal consciously. Do not expect fireworks. Expect whispers. The double does not shout. It murmurs in dreams, in coincidences, in insights that feel like your own thoughts, but carry a clarity you could not have invented. Over time, trust grows. The ritual becomes second nature, and slowly, night after night, your future bends toward light. So tonight, when you close your eyes, remember, you are not falling into darkness. You are stepping into dialogue. And on the other side of that silence, your quantum double is waiting. The cosmic cycle and the urgency of now. Your life is not unfolding in isolation. It is woven into the rhythm of a greater clock, one that ticks not in minutes or years, but in vast cosmic cycles. Ancient civilizations knew this. The Mayans measured time in spirals of thousands of years. The Greeks spoke of the Great Year, a cycle of nearly 26,000 years in which humanity repeatedly faced moments of collapse and renewal. Jean-Pierre Garnier Malet reminds us that we are living at the close of such a cycle right now. This is not superstition, it is astronomy. Earth's axis wobbles slowly, completing a grand precession over millennia. At the turning of this cycle, civilizations throughout history recorded upheavals, wars, natural disruptions, crises of meaning. We feel it today in our own skin: global instability, ecological imbalance, the acceleration of technology racing ahead of wisdom. These are not random. They are the tremors of time folding in on itself, demanding a reset. And here lies the urgency. The theory of the quantum double is not merely a private practice for individual healing. It is a survival key for humanity at the threshold of change. Each night, as your double explores futures for you, it also negotiates the collective destiny of our species. Every thought you release before sleep, every act of fear or of trust, is added to that negotiation. You are not just choosing your path, you are contributing to the path of the world. This is why the ancients treated sleep as sacred. Pythagoras urged his disciples to review their actions before rest, not only to learn but to realign. The Egyptians inscribed dream rituals into their temples. Early Christians spoke of the Paraclete, the inner guide sent to remind and protect in times of trial. Each tradition understood what science is now rediscovering. In the silence of the night, the future is written. So the question is not abstract, it is immediate. As this great cycle ends, what will humanity awaken into? Chaos or renewal? Collapse or transformation? The answer is not only in the hands of leaders or systems, it is in the hands of each person who dares to trust their double, who chooses to seed futures of balance rather than fear. And you, tonight, when you close your eyes, you are not only shaping your own tomorrow, you are placing a vote in the election of the human future. The cosmos waits, the cycle closes, and your double is already moving ahead. Will you let it lead you, and all of us, into the timeline where we survive, thrive, and awaken? Answering the call of your quantum double. Now you know, the future is not an empty page waiting to be written. It is a library of possibilities already alive, already turning, already calling. Within it, your quantum double moves, exploring, erasing, updating, and returning, with fragments of guidance disguised as dreams, intuitions, or sudden insights. Every night, in the silence of sleep, you stand at the doorway to that library. The key is in your hands. Pythagoras told his disciples to honor that moment before sleep, to review their thoughts as if weighing their soul on a scale. He knew what Garnier Malet later described in scientific language, that your last thought is a seed that takes root in the future. Choose fear, and you feed timelines of despair. Choose trust, and you open paths of balance. It is simple, but never trivial. The future bends with every choice you make. So what will you do tonight, when your head touches the pillow? Will you surrender to the spiral of worry and pain, letting those echoes replicate? Or will you pause, breathe, and whisper a single intention? Guide me to the best future, knowing that another you is already listening. This is not fantasy, it is practice, and it begins now. Your quantum double is not a distant myth. It is you, accelerated, expanded, alive in another timeline, waiting for you to listen. Depression, anxiety, and fear are not final sentences. They are drafts that can be rewritten. The invitation is clear. Live not as a prisoner of chance, but as a co-creator with your double. Tonight is your opportunity, and tomorrow will reflect the choice you make before you sleep. The question is no longer whether your quantum double exists. The question is whether you will answer its call.